Twilight Sword is an upcoming Zelda-inspired tabletop RPG by Two Little Mice, the creators of the award-winning RPGs Outgunned and Household, both of which I've covered on this channel. In the case of Twilight Sword, Two Little Mice has partnered with Swedish game publisher Free League, I guess to reach a broader audience as well as to open the game up to third-party content through the Free League workshop. In this video, I just want to walk you through the free preview document that accompanies the backer kit for this game, which is launching at around the time of this recording. I'll leave a link to that below. Then I want to share with you what I like about this project so far, as well as a couple of things on my wish list. Let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to point out, and you've probably noticed it already yourself, is the fact that both the PDF and the physical books for this game are formatted in a very rare 1:2 aspect ratio, such that when you open them up, you get a perfect square. In fact, squares are a dominant design motif with this game. It comes with square boxes that contain square cards for items, enemies, bosses, and map tiles. This doesn't really impact gameplay or anything, it's just sort of an interesting break from the norm. I guess one possible problem with this approach is that since the books don't have as much width when opened, they might not lay flat when opened to a particular page. I mean, they might lay flat, but they'd have to be pretty exquisitely constructed for that to happen. But as far as the setting and theme of the game, you can pretty much see it all right here. It's very Zelda inspired with a dash of Dragon Quest, Wonder Boy and Monsterland, and Ni no Kuni. The setting is extremely basic. It's a once peaceful land called Radia, but a big bad guy named Vardis has filled the lands with an army of various and sundry monsters. You play as a champion who must clear the lands of these monsters, as well as do little tasks for people, one map tile at a time, until you eventually get the Twilight Sword in order to defeat Vargas. As mentioned before, there are two cube-shaped boxes, both styled as JRPG treasure chests. They'll both run 11 centimeters cubed. That's actually not that big, about 4 1/3 inches to a side, so kind of cute-sized boxes. The first one contains a starter set, rules booklet, mini campaign booklet, some dice, some character sheets, map tiles, monster cards, and some play tokens. The second box is a repository for cards, which actually drive this game. There are cards for monsters, cards for the bosses, map cards, and weapon cards. It just occurred to me that since the cards will be square shaped, if you're the kind of person who absolutely has to sleeve their cards, you have to go out of your way to find the right sleeves for these cards. Alright, so you can play as 5 different kin. Huma, who are basically Zelda-style elf people. Kedai, little cat folk who are from the desert. Pingu, super strong, unusually large penguin folk. Strix, which come in all shapes and sizes and excel at magic. And Toluna, who are simply described as being muscly and strong. I don't know if they're anthropomorphic animals or what. As you put your character together in the game, there will be 6 different so-called ways that you can choose from. Actually, you'll choose any 2 of these ways. Each of these will provide perks and feats of one kind or another. The preview is a little light on details, but I can see this being a pretty compelling aspect of character creation in the game, since the different combinations could create some interesting synergies if done right. This approach reminds me most recently of Daggerheart's approach to character design, where you choose 2 domains. And here's probably the most appealing aspect of the game to me, the dead simple rules. In a nutshell, you're going to be rolling a single d12. If that roll is equal to or lower than one of your character's 8 ability scores that's being tested, then you succeed. If you roll a 1, that's an automatic success, and a 12 is an automatic failure. There are modifiers to your roll from feats, gear, and the environment, and you can have advantage and disadvantage on a roll where you roll 2d12 and take the higher or lower result respectively. That's kind of it, or at least that's how it's presented in this preview, and I think this is the perfect mindset for a Zelda-inspired RPG. I personally don't want to play a Zelda game and find myself crunching numbers or simulating the world through mechanics. I think the designers here clearly understood that. There's this whole interconnecting system of elements in the game that seem intriguing, but I couldn't tell you from this preview how this stuff shows up in the mechanics. The idea is neat, at least. There are 8 elements and each can beat another element, except darkness can beat light and light can also be darkness, so that's kind of confusing. The big takeaway here is that there's a sort of ninth element called Twilight, and it's much more powerful than all of the other elements. Hence, any weapon imbued with Twilight, such as, say, a Twilight Sword, for example, would be pretty handy when fighting a high-level boss. There's also the suggestion of a crafting system in this game. I always love the idea of crafting in an RPG, but oftentimes it ends up being a slog in terms of tracking components and fiddling around with recipes and ingredients. But I guess if they manage to keep the crafting simple, then it has the possibility of being satisfying. The proposed exploration system looks pretty interesting. As you travel through the world, you add map cards to the table, and there are pre-made region maps that you can uncover in the course of your journey. Check this out. For what I assume is the starter set map, you can eventually uncover all of this, one tile at a time. This approach has a good chance of simulating the thrill of world exploration found in Zelda games and other JRPGs. Here's the most important part. Every time you reach a new area or landmark, you're meant to defeat all the monsters in that zone, help people out through little quests, and ultimately beat a boss. Once you accomplish that, you gain points of hope, which do two things. They are spent to level up your character's abilities, and they reduce the overall level of despair in a region. If you can reduce a region's despair to 0, then you're rewarded with more stuff, although I couldn't tell you what that is. But the play cycle is clear. You're motivated to go from landmark to landmark and clear the region of monsters and do all the little side quests, because that's how you get powerful enough to take on the ultimate villain of the setting. Here are a couple of examples of what regular monsters look like, and I think this is where you'll find the best illustrations in this preview document so far, by the way. Each of these monsters comes in the form of a very handy card, which I think would work well at both a physical table and in a VTT. One really clever conceit is how bosses are implemented across two cards that connect. It's a lovely idea, and again, the art is great for these monsters. So yeah, that's it so far for Twilight Sword. Here's what I like about the project so far. Simple rules. Again, this is a Zelda-inspired tabletop RPG, so I would expect action resolutions to be fast and fun. A single D12 roll is about as simple as it gets. Accessible presentation. I'll be the first to recognize the 1:2 aspect ratio of the pages are a gimmick. It's a fun gimmick, but it's neither here nor there in the long run. What's important is the extremely readable and attractive layout of the text and artwork. I don't have the core rulebook or the setting book in front of me yet, but judging from this preview document, I think everything is going to be quite easy to read and reference. Free League Workshop. Judging from the Free League Workshop logo in the credits, I imagine that this game will be open to third-party supplements through their program, which means this game would be open to an unlimited number of new monster and boss cards, new item cards, and maybe most importantly, new map cards. In that way, this game can expand and grow in a way that makes it a meaningful purchase. I have a couple things on my wish list for this game as well, at least at the time of this recording. More to show you in this video. So this one was a little bit limited in terms of what I've been able to show you, just because the preview PDF was a little light on details. I wish I knew how the elements system worked, and what the path perks and feats looked like, and how many monsters will be included in the base game. Actually, I have a lot of questions. Zelda-style puzzles. One of the most engaging and memorable things about any and all Zelda video games, going back to the very first one, is the puzzle solving that you have to do. Fetch quests, key quests, items that unlock areas. It's a long and varied list of different puzzles that you have to solve in order to advance in a Zelda game. So my wish for Twilight Sword is that you see something like that in the personal quests that you complete for NPCs. But that's it so far for Twilight Sword. I'm going to back it because I think it's got a lot of potential for a Zelda-like experience. I think the deciding factor for me is the fact that the game will be expanded upon in the Free League Workshop. That's a big deal because it means we won't have to wait on the Two Little Mice team to publish supplements and expansions, if they even plan on doing any. Instead, we could potentially have a lot of great supplemental material come from the community. I've left a link below. Let me know your thoughts on this project so far, and I'd love to hear your ideas on what a good side quest would look like in this game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.